All right, good nerve yontif everybody. It's my Zadie's yard site. It's a very special time for me. It's 22 years. 22 years, hard to believe. He made me, he got me into Yiddishkeit. He made me for Eid, so I owe everything to my Zayda, Reb Baruch ben Reb Yitzchak. My name is Yitzchak Zev, after Yitzchak being his father. Also on my Baba's side, she also had a Zayda Yitzchak, and Zev was two different uncles, but it happened to be the Brisker Rov's name. The people ask if I'm named for the Brisker Rov. It's interesting. I'm also Einik from the Chavas Yor, and the Chavas Yor had a Zayda, Reb Yitzchak, who was the Rav in Brisk a long time ago, before Brisk was known today for the Soloveitchik family, the Buchrach family, Bacharachs. They were already there in Brisk long time ago. So I'm an Einikal from the Rav from Brisk, going way back. I think that's already the 1400s. This is not the subject I want to talk about right now, so maybe I'm going to talk about something else. My Zayda, he was a big chassid of Reb Meir Kahana. And even though I personally very strongly oppose Zionism, I really have a certain level of respect for Reb Meir. He wasn't any kind of gadol, but he was an Erlchid, and you can't learn in a bissel, and he was a Hartzigid. He loved Yidden, he loved Yiddishkeit, he loved Torah. He was a big Baal Chesed, and he was a thinker, and he was an independent thinker. He had a lot of chashivas to him, but it wasn't his fault so much. He grew up in a Zionist home. His father, who was a Choshev Rav himself, and he came from Shinover Hasidim. His father, his name was Cheskel Shrage, after Shinover Rav. I believe that doesn't make sense though, because Shinover Rav probably would have still been alive when his father was alive, so I'm not sure. It doesn't make so much sense to say that, but anyway, because Samarov was by Shinover Rav, so I'm not sure if I got that right. I know they came from Choshev Chassidish Mishpacha, even though Reb Meir was Gavarn and Litvisher. He learned in Mir, but he is Gavarn Koidim Zeis, he is Gavarn in Tzioni, and he was always kind of an odd man out there learning in Mir. That he was always a very militant Zionist. What's going on with these tires? All right, I'm not sure, but Reb Meir, he had a lot of good points in him. And it's just reminding me something that came up this weekend with another Zionist thinker who's become very famous right now, probably more famous than Meir Kahana was in his time, and an Orthodox Jewish person, a Baal Tshuva from a young age, his whole family Baal Tshuva, someone who's one day younger than me. So I'm mekana him a little bit because of his hatzlacha, but I understand, with his hatzlacha comes a lot of tsaris. So I shouldn't be mekana his pekel for my pekel, But Ben Shapiro, a younger man, my same age, like I said, we both had our bris on the same day, I would assume, because I was born on Shabbos, but it was a C-section, so bris was on Sunday, and he was born on Sunday, the next day, after I was born. So it seems maybe there was, Mistama, if he had bris bismana, which I don't know, it's none of my business, but it would be the same day. So anyway, he was talking Ephes about that Beto O'Rourke, the horrifying thing that Beto O'Rourke said about taking away tax-exempt status from any church that exercises its religious freedom and it opposes marriage between two men or between two women, claiming somehow this is some kind of a fundamental human right. And now, and it's a discriminatory practice. And Ben Shapiro pointed out that it's not discrimination, because I think my Zeta would have liked Ben Shapiro. It's not discrimination, because you don't want to. We can't do this in our church. Go to the church down the block. They'll do it. We don't want to do it in our synagogue. We're Orthodox synagogue. There's a Reform temple down the block. You go to them. And even more and more, there's not too many, one or two, but they're calling themselves Orthodox. So you go to those people that might do something like this. And I try to be as liberal as I can within the realms of halacha with a lot of these matters, not only with these matters, but there's nothing can be done within the realm of halacha. As far as celebrating in some way a marriage in any way between two men or between two Jewish women, I would say if they're two quote-unquote Noahide women or whatever you want to say, there might be room what to say. It's different, and other people say different, and I understand, and everybody has their right to their views. And the way is this, and I myself, I was presented one time with, I showed up to perform not really marriage ceremony, a sign of marriage license, really, essentially, and I didn't have the couple. Now I asked what's the name of the bride and groom, and it wasn't a Jewish couple. It was in Manhattan, and I show up and it's two men, and I'm saying, I'm very sorry, I just can't do this. I'll recommend maybe somebody else who could do it. They said, don't worry, we can find someone else. We understand. We're sorry, and that's normal, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I was very polite, and they were very polite, and so what? So I didn't get $100 to sign a marriage license, in their apartment in Manhattan. I happened to be going through the city anyway. I remember I had Epis a Vort, I think, in Williamsburg, and I had to be Menachem Oval in Monsey Epis, and I passed through Manhattan, and I stopped at this apartment to sign a marriage license, get $100, and I said I couldn't do it. There's always a gavain, and I didn't do it. And I could have just pocketed the $100. Nobody would have known. But that's But the thing is, on both sides, we're respectful to each other, and I don't have a problem with that. I don't, I even would say, there's another website. You might find a minister there. They weren't looking for a rabbi. They didn't care a rabbi not. And I was coming from Williamsburg, so I was dressed like a rabbi. I don't always dress like a rabbi when I do weddings for non-Jewish couples. Sometimes I do. Anyway, that day, because I reckon it wasn't a wedding, just signing marriage license. We're not taking pictures. I didn't do it, and I do a lot of things that a lot of Orthodox rabbis would never do, and openly, and I'm not ashamed of it. When, there was an Israeli couple, they just wanted the marriage license signed, and I said, I couldn't do it. As long as it's not, I don't have a problem with that. I don't, I even would say, I wanted the I remember it was in something, I think it was in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, something. Both Israelis, they were both Jewish, but they just wanted a civil ceremony, nothing religious. They said maybe when they go back to Israel, they'll do a religious ceremony there. And as much as I hate the Ivrit language, but I do weddings in Spanish sometimes. I did once in Chinese, a few words. I actually did a totally civil ceremony in Ivrit. And I'm saying this, there's a video, you can see it. And in a certain way, I was doing it just to shtach that now they could go to whatever rabbis they want. They don't have to when they have their chuppah and kedusha. They want to go to Chuck Davidson. My friend Chuck Davidson was a Choshev Berman. Again, I disagree with him on Zionism, but we get along, and and they get it done, and as is this, and they don't have to get the Israeli government involved in whatever they're doing. And I didn't let my personal distaste for the Ivrit language color that either. But anyway, so Ben Shapiro was saying that we're not discriminating. I would take it further to say if as long as the church will do what do you call it? They're going to do if they're willing to perform a ceremony between a man who identifies as a gay man and a woman who identifies as a lesbian, then you're already not discriminating, because they're treating everybody the same. And just the same, they're not going to do a wedding between two men who identify as straight men, and maybe they just want to, or or two women who identify as straight women, and they just want to. And they just want something for a tax break or something. I don't know. They need to be legally married. I now pronounce you Chuck and Larry, right? Wasn't there a movie like that? And the same churches, they say we're not going to do that, and I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't, perform a marriage between two men just for I don't know, immigration purposes or something like that. Just I wouldn't do such a thing. Even if these men are not they're not involved romantically in any way. It's why, and the reason why I'm saying this is religiously we have a text in Talmud Chulin that says that one of the reasons why God doesn't destroy the world is that even though the nations of the world don't keep the 7 laws of Noah, at least they're not at least they're not writing some kind of a marriage contract between two men. That they don't go that far, and that even if they're engaging in these sinful acts, they at least recognize it's sin. And they're not going so far to ceremonialize the sin, which is not even actually true historically. Even in those days, I mean, historically, a lot of the aspect of that sin was ceremonial and as part of Avodah Zarah. But already by that time it wasn't like that. Though, but in earlier times that's how it was. At that time I don't think it was as much ceremonialized in Avodah Zarah in that way. But there were other similar ceremonies, whatever it was. But still, I'm not looking for historical accuracy here, but rather for the moral message here. And it's the same thing about making a bracha before you eat ham or bacon or something. It's bad enough you're doing a sin, but you're gonna make a religious ceremony out of something that's wrong. That's my standpoint on it. But I don't really agree so much with Ben Shapiro's approach that just the government should get out of the marriage business, this and that. I think what I do believe is the federal government should have nothing to do with it. This is a state and local issue, and it should be left to the states to decide these things, and certainly not adjudicated through the Supreme Court. But I think I heard there was one state where they're doing away with marriage licenses. They're only registering, the couple just has to register their marriage with the state, and there's no need to register marriage licenses, and so therefore it's the kichapaim of our levov, it's with clean hands and a pure heart that they're washing their hands of the whole business, Now the thing that got controversial that Ben Shapiro said in the end was, he said, if it's just in the states, I could leave the state. If they're going to force us down my throat in California, I could move to Nevada, right? But if you're going to federalize this, so then I either have to go move to another country, and I think he has a particular country in mind that I'm not going to move to. I might go to New Zealand. I don't know what it's like there. I don't know, but I'm saying if the communists take over America like that, and they're going to force people to violate their religion and force the schools to teach things that go against our religion, and that's exactly what's going on now. And this is the whole story with Yafid and everything else that we're talking about. And we see now Nick Muster, he's saying he wants to run for Congress, and he wants to get rid of RUIPA, we call it RUIPA. Horrifying what's going on. So and ignorant and evil. He said, either I'm going to leave, or if Beto O'Rourke, if you come to my door, I'm going to meet you with a gun. And people are saying, oh, he's inciting violence and this and that. And, or they say something, oh, that's very normal, this and that. And the answer that I have to it is, he's not talking about random acts of violence. He's talking about the same way that George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and Ben Franklin and Patrick Henry and all of them met King George with a gun. I mean, this is why we have the Second Amendment, to protect us from tyrants like Beto O'Rourke. And he tries to be so charming and this and that, and he's really a tyrant. I mean, it's almost like how the story goes is why Hitler, why did he grow the mustache like he did? He said because everybody loved Charlie Chaplin, and so he wanted to be a beloved character, and it's so like this is the story. So anyway, this is Beto O'Rourke. He is, he's like Hitler trying to be like Charlie Chaplin. I mean, I'm not saying he's Hitler yet. He might be. I mean, if he's doing stuff like this, he's pretty bad, But these are the types of things that we have to be worried about. And so that's why the connection with Meir Kahane, everything is, every Jew at 22, right? But even I don't have guns myself. But the thing is like, this is the reason. It's not just like how Meir Kahane thought, we got to defend ourselves because there's bullies that come and knock hats off of people. That's just part of life. But like, the real issue here is the communists' attack on our country and on our freedoms. So thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe, comment, and tell me what you think. All right, I only have like 13 minutes left. I'm gonna try to make another video in 13 minutes. All right, God bless. Take care.